Hi, this is Mark Richards, creator of CandidatesChair.com. Thanks for joining me today for this seminar on You and the Recruiter. In this seminar, I'm going to cover what is probably the most frustrating and misunderstood area of job search working with recruiters. To do that, I'll cover 6 items. The first and second are the elements of a recruiter's role and who do they work for. The third is the line that every candidate has used when working with a recruiter. The fourth is my rule that I borrow from Texas Hold'em as to whether you should apply for a job with a recruiter or not. The fifth is that you really don't want to meet the recruiter. The sixth, if you do meet a recruiter, here's some ideas on how to get ready. If there's an image that best represents how fellow candidates feel about working with recruiters, I think this is it. It's part of the job search, but difficult to work with. So let's start with the elements of a recruiter's job. Once a recruiter gets from its clients the requirements for a position, the recruiter will build a pool of candidates. Then they'll go through that pool and determine which ones best fit the client's requirements. Then they'll get on the phone and try and convince those who qualify to take a look at the role. Remember that most of the people recruiters talk to are currently working. So for whom does the recruiter work? It's pretty straightforward. The one that pays their bill, the client. It's not a recruiter's job to find you a job. Now, once the recruiters finish their work and a client has shown interest in you, that's when you need to take over, because the best negotiations are going to be the ones that are directly between you and the company, with no one in between. If you think of it much like selling a house, there's an agent for the buyer and an agent for the seller. In the case of a job, the agent for the client is the recruiter. You need to be your own agent to make sure the deal gets done right. Here is the most frustrating part of candidates working with recruiters, whether or not your skills transfer. In my role as chair of a networking group, I've probably met with 125 different recruiters, and this is a very common topic. I'll share a couple of thoughts. First, by the time a company gets around to hiring a recruiter, it means that there's no one internally and no one in their network that they could find to fill the role. So now they're going to pay the recruiter, on average, 1/3 of the base salary to find someone, and a company's going to get its money's worth. They give to the recruiter a very specific list of requirements they want to fill that position. So now the recruiter is not looking for talent, they're looking for very specific talent. Second, few recruiters have ever worked in the position or in the industry in which they're seeking to fill the role. So third, you can't really expect them to translate your experience from perhaps a different position or a different industry to match their client's requirements. You need to do that for them. Now, here's my rule as to whether or not you should apply. In Texas Hold'em, if you have a strong hand, you bet. If you have a hand that could potentially be a winner, you draw or keep playing. If you don't have anything in your hand, you should fold and get out of the game. To bet, you match the title and the experience. The draw would be you match either the title or the experience. But going back to the point before, for anything that's different, it's up to you to translate for the recruiter how your other experience matches their client's requirements. Now, third is fold if you don't match the title or the experience. I know it's hard to fold, but let me share another tip I got from a recruiter. But here's a tip I got from a recruiter. Most of them have pretty sophisticated databases which serve as their institutional memory. It not only records all the emails and correspondence that you have with a recruiter, but all the applications you've made as well. Think twice before you hit the send button. Lots of people tell me that the recruiter won't take time to meet with them, and I tell them that's just fine. Because a recruiter gets work no different than you find a job. They get out and they network. If you want the recruiter to have a job for you to look at, you want them out selling, not talking to you. What you do want to meet is their database. So ask the recruiter for what phrases and terms would they use when they do a search for a role like yours, to make sure all of those are in your documents that you supply to them. Now, if you do meet a client's requirements, trust me, you're going to get plenty of quality time talking with recruiters. Don't worry. In the event you do meet with a recruiter, a couple of tips to get ready. First, professional courtesy. Be prepared and be on time. Every time a recruiter sends a candidate out to a client, their reputation is on the line. So you want to start building that confidence from the first minute that when they put you out in front of that client, you're going to do well. Now, if you're meeting in just network, remember there's no job, so don't ask for one. What you do want to ask is whether or not you can help the recruiter in their work. If you are meeting for a job, remember you're already screened in, so now it's all about how to position you. Be honest about your background, because something you may consider as a weakness may actually be a strength. For example, if you've had primarily operational roles in your background versus corporate, that may be a good thing versus someone that's had primarily corporate roles. so never assume what the client's looking for. Also, always follow up with a simple thank you. Again, it goes back to professional courtesy, but also keep the recruiter informed as to where you are, because you never know when they might find a job that fits you. A couple other items help set your expectations when you work with recruiters. First, recruiters may have 1 to 2 jobs a year that fit your requirements. So that means you want to work with lots of recruiters, not just one. Second, it's tough to set yourself apart, and that's simply because of the volume of candidates a recruiter talks to in a year. An average job search will take between 100 to 250 calls to fill. So if you imagine that a recruiter has one search a month, that's 1,200 calls on the inside. That is a lot of candidates to compare yourself against. Remember, you want to be in their database. If you do network with the recruiter and you actually try and help them to get more work, then you should expect the same in return. Some of the best referrals that I've gotten have been through recruiters where we've done mutual networking. I'd like to offer my thanks to my colleague Marcia Ballinger from Keystone Search for being my very gracious guide to the world of recruiting, but also for all the work that she's done on behalf of people in job transition. Once again, this is Mark Richards for the Candidates Chair. Thanks for joining me, and good luck today.